So next thing we want to know is the health state. I've created a test development, I've created my element. It seemed to look all right, but is it actually working correctly? I'm not talking about functionality. I'm talking about, will it impact my system? Maybe there are some errors in the background. Maybe the data I'm receiving is not correct. How can I figure this out in a quick way? Let's have a look and use Data Miner to show this. So I have my elements still up and running, or so I think, but I can see that some components are actually not initialized. So maybe I'm missing some logic in my driver, maybe something is wrong. And for the items that I do receive, is this actually the correct value? So I want to verify the data traffic itself. So instead of using a third-party tool, I'm just going to use Data Miner to verify the basic steps. Do I get info? Yes, no, and does it seem okay? For this, I can go to the hamburger menu of my element card, click on View, and I will select the Stream Viewer. Now, this is a really nice way to just verify what's going on. So while I'm talking, we can actually already see that we get a timeout for specific requests, and we have groups in here defined. We haven't seen groups yet, don't yet worry. But what the stream viewer will show you is the data traffic, all depending on the communication that is going on. For instance, I have an SNMP communication. You will see that SNMP get and its response. If you have a serial communication, you will see your commands and responses in there. In our case, we have an HTTP connection set up, so I can see my information in here as well. Now, let's freeze this for a moment. We can freeze that little pane and have a look what's really going on. So I mentioned we have some groups located in here. Currently, I'm selected on all, so I will see all the data traffic passing by. And you can see all the groups. But what is a group? It's actually a combination of my requests. In our definition, we're going to group requests together. So instead of always asking one thing at a time, we can group them. This is a combination of items I want to see. Again, this all depends on situation, so it could be that in your group there's only one request. So we can actually go and select that one group. We can open it up. We will see that it has a response status in there as well. It's HTTP, so we have a status, like we have HTTP 1.1200 here, that's my code, and we have our responses in there as well. Now, selecting this is basically filtering down on the component I really want to see. So for this one, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, we can see we have our information in there. Let's select another one and we have some different information. Now remember, we also had a timeout. Let me go back to the all, where we can see every single component in there. We also had a timeout error. Now this timeout is not the timeout that we define in our element. It's actually the timeout that was returned via the HTTP communication, and that's where you can see that win HTTP as well. Now, all kinds of error can pop up in here as well. So that's why I really love this stream viewer, because there's a quick way to validate, do I get any errors? For instance, maybe the SNMP agent of your remote data source is returning no such OID, a specific error. And then you can look up what does it mean. Well, no such OID is that OID that you're requesting via an SNMP get doesn't exist. Or maybe access is not granted to your API and you will get a response back, no such or no access. Or in this case, we get a timeout. Does make sense as well. Although I don't want to get the timeout, I know where to start looking to solve my problem. Stream viewer, data traffic, it's a very nice way to do it. Now imagine I also want to know if there are any errors in the background, my logic itself. So this is purely the data traffic, but with the data that I'm receiving, maybe something is going wrong as well. Maybe that's the reason of having those not initialized components in here. How can I see all of these things? Should I add some debugger tool in there or whatever? We can actually use that hamburger menu again and have view and go and have a look on the log file. There's a lot of information to be found in this log file, and that's why we have trimmed it. We've added some filters in there. So when selecting the log settings, we can actually say, I want to see some more information for a specific base. For instance, I just want to see more information messages, or I want to see more debugging info, or I want to see more in-depth error messages in there. So we will start with the basics, and it's saying no logging. Don't think there's no logging at all. It would be an empty file, but there's no extra logging involved. We have our basic set. Now, where did I find this information? Let's just take a first step back. So we had our element. I used the hamburger menu to go view log, and it opened an extra pane here, an extra card. We have System Center. Now there's another way to reach the System Center as well. We can go to Apps, System Center, and it's actually the same card. We can select logging, go to elements, and then select the element we want. Of course, if you already know and you have your element open, the hamburger menu will be quicker. Now let's have a look on the logging itself. There's a lot of information already on the startup, so default information that we keep to indicate this is the starting up procedure. And when we scroll down, we will eventually, normally you shouldn't see errors, but in this case, I made sure that we have an error, you will get your errors in there as well. So in my case, my logic is failing on something. It is failing on this specific functionality, and you can see there's some extra information as well. My key is not found. So what key? Well, it's actually null. So somewhere in my logic, I made a mistake and I'm searching for a non-existing component. So from these errors, I can actually already know where to look in my definition. Now this is for one element alone. Imagine you're not interested in just one element. You just want to know what's the health in your entire agent. What other errors are there for protocols that are running currently? For that, I can go to data mine. So again, you can use the apps, go to System Center, and then not select elements. Otherwise, you will need to go through all of your elements, scroll down, see what errors there are. Well, in Data Miner tab page, you can select the agent that you want to investigate and just scroll down, select errors in protocol. This will be a summarized list of all the errors that are currently going on in your system, linked to protocol logic. So it's not just all the errors that are going on, linked to your protocols. So you can actually see we have, in our case, the Kubernetes manager, and I have my error here as well. Now I can go a step further. I was talking about the health state and errors. This is just failing logic in there. So I'm getting a cell that doesn't exist, for instance, or something is crashing in my logic. But what if something is stuck? You will probably not see it in here because something is running and it's not really crashing, it's just stuck there. Or I have logic that just takes forever to complete. How can I detect this? Well, Data Miner also has a watchdog to watch and guard over all of the processes and threads that are running. Are they still active? And it will flag it when something gets stuck for a longer period. Now we can see that log file in the watchdog. We can see what's happening and what it will guard as well. So in the beginning of this log file, you can see all of the items it will start and pay attention to. So next to the names, you can also see a time, and this time important for us to know as developers. This is the time that the watchdog will wait until it will indicate, well, something is wrong. And if it's double the time, the watchdog will say, well, okay, the people using the system should be aware of it, and it will give you information on screen, something is wrong here. And then you will usually see an indication called runtime error. It could be that your SL protocol thread is stuck. So you will have a runtime error on your SL protocol. Now we are focused on protocol, and that's why I'm using that example as well. We're working on a protocol definition, so we want to know what's going on in there as well. You can see that we have some protocol components here as well. For instance, the get protocol object thread, and it's the same format. We have a timing as well. But this is all background things running. I'm more interested in my elements because my logic could be causing problems on my system. So let's scroll down. This is all the startup of your agent. Let's scroll down, and at some point I will see I have started up my element. Whenever you start up an element or stop an element, you will see an indication like this: add thread, and then a protocol with the name itself. We can see it here as well. I am adding a thread for my protocol, and it's my Kubernetes manager, and we will see that timing indication again. That timing indication is quite useful because you will know whenever I get the error, well, 7.5 minutes before that something was done. And then you can have a look in the information events and see, well, what was done. Maybe a protocol got an update, like we've just done. Protocol got an update, and since then something is wrong. When this time has been breached, the 7.5 minutes, you will get a notification in your log file indicating half open runtime error. When 2 times this time has been breached, you will get a open runtime error in this log file and also an indication in your alarm console. Now that's an easy way to verify your health state. At the end, we don't want to have any errors in our element logging, so the one that we're currently developing. I don't want to see any errors in the errors in protocol, and I don't want to see any protocol thread runtime errors at all. Now there is a catch, especially for errors. Let's go back to the errors in protocol. Now in this example, it's clearly a case of an incorrect logic in my driver itself, in my definition. I am searching for a key, null, and well, of course I can't find it because null doesn't exist. But imagine that the value of this key is linked to data that I'm receiving from my data source. And my data source is returning a different format. So maybe it's not null, but a completely different thing. And I'm expecting a specific format, but it's not the same anymore. And in that case, it's an impacted error due to a firmware change, for instance. It's out of our hands. We could not have foreseen this error. Well, we can validate it and make sure that it doesn't crash. We can say, I'm going to check if the incoming data has this format. If not, I'm still going to throw an error, so it pops up in here, but I will give a nice description in it. I, as a developer, I will format it while the incoming info, this info, does not comply with the format that we expected. We expected this format. And with these types of errors, anyone reading this log file will better understand what's going on. You do not need to be a developer to understand the problem there. You will see, well, this is clearly not a driver issue. It's not a logical issue. Something happened on an external thing, and that's not supported yet in our definition of our protocol.